Hey, Jan. Hello, everyone.
Okay. So if you guys look at the agenda, it's just two things for tonight. It's me and Tiff teaching, and then, but it does have next week's agenda, so that you guys have the full week to go ahead and study and create a presentation and all that.
Yeah, I know I'm on for next week.
Do what?
Yep. I believe I'm on next week, too.
I know I'm on for next week.
Yeah, so for next week, I've got Jan with conditional statements, functions, variables, parameters, arrays, and associative arrays. Then I have Mark with DOM manipulation using create element, append child, insert before, remove child, etc.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I got Tiff with manipulating CSS class properties using JavaScript, and then Chuck with HTML5 tags, video, audio, canvas, etc.
Yep.
Cool.
When do we want to figure out what we're going to do for our group project?
So we don't have to decide now, but definitely start thinking of ideas. We've got another 8 weeks to really make that decision. But yeah, I definitely want to think.
I haven't really.
Go ahead.
Do we know what kind of details or how long it needs to be, or what? I mean, I haven't looked at it close enough to know.
I didn't see.
But do we have a grip on that at all?
At least not yet.
I didn't.
We just need to incorporate all 12. Do we have to incorporate all 12 of the different topics into that to make that work?
If it's like the Java class that I had, sort of. You have to at least have a lot of it. It's
right.
It's kind of it really depends on how well you do your application and your teacher reviews it. Because I left a couple things out on my Java class, but I still made an A on that. So, but I just couldn't use them in my app. I just couldn't get them to fit into what I wanted it to do. So.
Well, they probably recognize that then. So it might be the same here then.
Yeah, and plus you get graded on the on each of the topics through your research. So that's really where it comes into play. It might be different in this class. They might want every single topic on our app, so which I actually wouldn't see a problem with that on all of these that it's showing us.
No, I think we could probably incorporate it. I'm curious, Tiffany, did you present yours to the teacher, what you did last week?
No, I just put the presentation in the folder so he has access, but I didn't re-record it or anything.
I didn't know if you actually sent a link to him to have him look at it to get feedback. I'm curious how he.
Oh, like on my website, like the screen and stuff. I did. I put it in the Code Topics Dropbox, and then I never heard, so I emailed today and haven't heard back, like just to say, hey, is that what I was supposed to do? Because he never responded with anything.
Okay. Has anybody else tried that? I'm just curious how the process is going.
So I'm just going to do mine every 2 weeks. I think that's when he said he would grade it as about every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The grade's not final at the end, right?
Say that again?
So the grade's not really final until the end, though. So if we don't have a strong grade right now, as long as we have it by the end, we're not necessarily losing points at this point, right?
Correct.
You're not.
He just said that
strong grade right now.
He just said if you do it once, you're probably going to have a hard time getting a good grade. But if he has a couple renditions of each of them, it's good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't want to wait till the very end to do everything. Because again, like I said, your first iteration will probably not be very high to begin with. I mean, unless you do absolutely outstanding, but you have to go through a couple iterations.
If code is bleeding through your blood, then yeah, you probably do good.
Yeah.
I think part of what they're looking for is that. Yeah, because I think they're looking for that learning process too, which he can't grade if you don't submit till the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be really bad to wait to the very end and find out you're missing a couple levels on a couple topics and end up with a B, C, or whatever. So
let me get this straight. We're doing the teaching presentations. Are we supposed to be writing codes or programs for these as well?
Yeah, you will personally be writing code for every single topic. You're supposed to research every single topic on your own. The presentations are just...
And according to the...
Yeah.
Just to help each other out and just...
Exactly.
Work on the presentation skills.
Yep.
Okay.
But even showing the code on the presentations is a good thing because you can... from the instructions it says it doesn't hurt to show the code and then step through the code so you can see how it reacted and why it was written appropriately.
Teaching other people, you learn a lot quicker because you have to actually be able to, you have to know what you're talking about. You can't just create code, present it, and be done.
Oh, and you're putting a pretty high bar up there, you know. Come on, seriously. Now I'm scared.
Turn the club bar.
Cool.
Oh, I think we'll all do fine. Who's up first for today?
So I had just put them on the page, but Tiff, if you want to go first, you can. Otherwise, I can go ahead and go.
I need to grab my charger for my laptop. Go ahead and keep going, though.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and go because I have my windows in the right order for my tab, Alt-Tab, to be able to
okay.
get it right, I think. So, let me share the screen. Yeah. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint there?
Yep.
Did I do it right?
Yep, can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
So I've got the standard JavaScript events, and then I also touched on the mobile ones, mobile specific. So let me get it to, here we go. So what is an event? The events are how JavaScript interacts with the HTML. It's handled through things that happen when the user or the browser manipulates a page. So this is a list of a lot of the standard ones. I don't know if this is all-inclusive, but it was the most inclusive one I found. So it has things for submitting forms, or if the page goes offline, if you press a key, if you've got media on there that starts playing. You've got your mouse ones, clicks, and dragging things, so all kinds of things like that. So those are the events that it's looking for in the JavaScript.
Where did you find that, Tiffany?
Where did I get that? That is, it's on my last slide, and I think I can point out which of my sources. I have a source slide at the end. So,
okay.
It was not, W3 Schools was pitiful on this, just as an FYI. It very pitiful on the JavaScript events, and it didn't really have anything at all on the mobile part of it. So I do have them on the source because I looked at it, but I didn't really use much from it. So this is an on-click event. We have just a really simple HTML right here, form that's just got the button, so it's not really a whole form. And in the button, we're telling it on click. I think most of us have probably done this in if we've taken 160 or some of these other classes, but we're going to call the function say hello, which we define up here, and we're using a window alert, and it'll just say hello world. So I have that right here. So it just pops it up, and you got say goodbye. And then you can get fancy with these, you know, depending on how many times it's clicked, it might change what it's saying and stuff. So this is just super basic on that. And so, I mean, some of these are going to be super simple coding. The HTML on almost all of them is a couple lines. It's just the scripting that can get a little bit longer on them. So this is a mouse over, mouse out one. It's longer. We have the heading tag, and we give it an ID so that we can refer to it later, and then the text here. So in our script, we start with the mouse over event, and in here we're calling that demo ID and telling it to change the words to mouse off of me when you mouse over it, and I also had it change the color. So you call the style element and change the color of the style to blue here. And then defining another one for mouse out, otherwise it'll just stay. If you don't do this part right here, it just stays however it turns, whatever you tell it to do with the mouse over. So here I just had the text go back to black and mouse over me. So here's where we're actually calling the mouse over function and the mouse out function. So they're defined and then called all within the script tag there. So that one is this one here. And this one, I haven't quite figured out why. I fought with it for a while. This scripting right here cannot be up in the head. I did most of my scripting up in the head part of my page, but for whatever reason, it would only do the first part. Actually, I don't even know if it did any of the functions at all. The other ones, all of my scripting is up in the head, so I'm not sure. I haven't dug into it hard enough to see, but
it's possible because it's based around the body of the page to a certain extent, and so the head might be just directing it to that, and you're beyond the head when you do this. So it's,
yeah, all my other ones are beyond the head too, so I'm not sure. I just may have been typing it in wrong each time I had it up there. I just finally gave up and was like, whatever, it works when I have it this way. And I know it's not wrong to have scripting down in the page. It's just I like my scripting up, not down in my the body. So so anyway, that's that one there. Just kind of a quick little thing there. Okay, so touch events. With touch events, you have to set up event listeners. And so those will be things like touch start, so when the finger is first on the screen. Touch move for finger moving. Touch end for when it leaves the screen, stops touching. The leave is when it moves outside of whatever area you've attached that event listener to. And then touch cancel, I mean, we all use mobile devices, and there's various ways to cancel. Like if I've clicked on a link I don't want to actually go to, holding my finger down and moving it off of that URL will make it often not go. So that's what the touch cancel is. And then we also have taps with the mobile devices, which are handled like a mouse click, but mobile browsers will wait 300 milliseconds, which is not really very long, before converting it into the click. And it waits because we have multi-touch gestures and stuff that can be programmed to show that it's not actually just a regular old mouse click type event. And I'll talk a little bit more about the wait there, because it can actually cause, not problems, but some lag time if you don't handle it right. Talked a little bit about how web apps being run should be able to run on both a mobile browser and a desktop. Most desktop browsers now tend to be touch enabled, but they may not be. And so it's a good idea to have event listeners for both like on click and on touch, so that it works across platforms. Okay, so this is a bit more scripting than we had in the other. Again, the HTML is super simple, 3 lines, whatever. It's not, not hard to do there. For this, we have a div with an ID and a class, and those are going to be used. I used CSS in this also, which I'm not showing, but in order to set it up on the page. So those I use with both the CSS and the scripting. So we have the box in the box 1 here, and it's just going to say touch me. And in the CSS is where I set up what that box looks like. And then we also have another one here just with text. And so over here, we start with our event listener that is going to turn on when the page loads. So that's what the event that it's looking for here. And then it activates this function that we've got right here, where we have some variables defined. Here's where we've got the ID box 1 is being referred to. And then our status div is going to be used with this right here. And then we've just got some other variables that we use, and we're initializing them at 0. So then after the page has loaded, it's listening now at this box 1 point for a touch. So you can touch elsewhere on the screen and it doesn't activate it unless it's within that div there. And on the touch start, it executes this function here where first it references where you first touched it. And then the start X is going to be this touch object.client X. Our touch object is the touch here. And client X is, client is the window, or the screen, the window, the monitor, whatever it is that the viewport is. And then X is referring to the horizontal axis. So it's going to get the X position of the touch relative to the left edge. That's where your 0 is on it. And here is where it's going to define what that status line may change to say. So here it's going to say where it's going to start at, where the starting pixels is. Now this right here, E prevent default, that E is this function that we've defined here. The prevent default function, what it does is it prevents whatever the page's default action may be, which with the mobile touches is that 300 millisecond thing. So with each one of these, we would have 300 millisecond lag here, another one here, and another one here, which with enough event listening going on, you could actually end up having some pretty good lag in a web app. And so that's why these are in here, is to prevent, okay, we've touched it, we're now using, we know we're using a mobile touch, so let's prevent that lag from happening again. Just assume it's a touch and not waiting for a click or whatever. So that's what that is. So then here we've got another event listener, which is moving. So when that touch starts to move, and it kind of manipulates some of the variables here. We've got a distance one where it's going to go from your position, and it's going to subtract the initial position. So then it sends that to the status to say this is how far you've traveled. Just for, I don't know why you would ever want to know that, but for this little one, that's what we're doing here. And then our last event listener here is end, touch end. So when your finger leaves it. And when you do that, it's now going to tell you where your last touch was, what the resting X coordinate was on here. So let me switch to...
Question?
Yeah.
On the, it shows the coordinate on there.
You don't ever see what?
Like a vertical, because you mentioned that the client X, the X is the horizontal position, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So there, I believe there is a client Y. I didn't use it in this one. I mean, I don't know why you couldn't then do start Y and, have another line here and put it into, have client X and start X and then client Y, like put it into that status bar. It does exist, but this one is just a horizontal.
Okay, just this one in particular. But,
yeah.
But would a Y allow the screen to understand where you started and stopped, whether it's vertical or horizontal at that point?
Yeah.
Is that what the Y does?
Yeah, that's what the Y does. So here I'm going to touch it and you'll be able to see under that status. So it tells you whether, so I'm touch moving and there I've touch ended, the status changes. Touch start is very briefly there, and it's saying where. So that's kind of what it does here. And so right now I'm going up and down. Well, obviously not straight, but I'm going up and down, and we don't really see anything. If I had programmed that client Y in there, that's where that should show up. We could tell it to show up. Both of them.
Those just give you the visual of where you're at.
Yeah, it's just a little visual. Yeah. So that the negative, it takes the middle of that div there on the y-axis, and that's how it'll push it negative. So the width of it is divided in two, with 0 being, I don't know, there.
Okay.
So that was kind of a little fun one. Let's see. So this next one is going to be another touch one, and it's got, again, very simple HTML here. And we've got our load listener, and using the same kind of style set up with the box and such. We've got our variables defined here. This one we're actually going to be moving a box, so our box left is saying where that left end of the box is going to be. And then that's our start and distance. So the touch object, again, is the first touch point where you've touched it at. So here on the touch start, it starts using all of these. We've got the box left, and it's going to change the style of it. It's like it's messing with the style, which it looked like next week. I think this is kind of CSS elements or whatever being manipulated by the JavaScript. I think that's what we've got going on here. I'm not sure. I didn't dig into it too much, but we're moving the style here based on that X. Again, I didn't do any with Y here. And so once we start moving the finger, then it's going to do this where it started minus the start X now, which is where you're at. I don't know why I called it start X. That's just what I kept it as for. I'm not good with my variables always meaning what they should. So here it does the calculation to see, am I allowed to move there? So the track that I have it going on has a maximum length. And so it's looking, is it greater than 380 or less than 0? If so, it can't move there. So that's what this is doing here. Let me go to it here. So that's this one right here. Let's you drag it back and forth. It'll stay where you leave it. I know there's a way to make it bounce back. I just didn't get that far into it. So anyway, that's what that one is. Oh, and here are my sources. Once you get into them, I mean, they're really not too confusing once you get into them and know the elements that you need to affect on there, you know, whether it's the X and Y and that kind of thing. So that list, I believe, is this top source. That one way back at the beginning, I'm pretty sure is this top source here.
Cool.
So anyway, that's the end of my presentation.
Good job.
Thanks. Thanks, Tiff.
Yep.
Okay, let me go ahead and present my desktop. If you guys ever want to reference this is on my website. Start at the beginning, be a little bit easier to find it. So go to the very bottom, and there's the topic example, CIT261. Just click on that, and then tonight I'm going to be talking about that local storage with both storing and retrieving data. Let me go ahead and start this. So first off, we want to talk about the history of where storage came from for websites and where we've come to at this point. So it first started with cookies. That's the initial storage, and that's the storage actually that's very prominent still. It is legacy in the sense that it is from the 90s. So we are definitely talking over 20 years now that this has been running. Started at a 4 kilobyte storage limit per cookie, and you have about 30 to 50 cookie allowance on each browser that you can store. So really there's not lots of place to store data on a user's computer. Most of the time they just stored session IDs, so that way you can, like if you stay, when you log into a website and you tell it to remember where, remember my login and all that kind of stuff, that's kind of the cookie stuff. It will store those session IDs for you and all that data. So some of the downsides to it is that your cookie is sent every time you send an HTTP request, which you can send tons of HTTP requests for a single web page. So to get an image, to load JavaScript that's not actually stored in the HTML code itself, for CSS style sheets, you name it, anything that's linked within your HTML document, it sends that cookie while it's trying to request that. So if you end up having a 4 kilobyte size cookie and you have to send that multiple times for one page, that's a lot of data transfer that it's taking up. And finally, one of the downsides of it, which I'm pretty sure all of us are familiar with, is the tracking. It's used to basically track wherever we've been, just because it is sent on every HTTP request that we send out. So they can track exactly where we've been, and that's how you get your targeted advertising nowadays from Google and stuff like that.
Hey, Olan, real quick, what does API stand for? Did you say that and I missed it? I might have.
So API, that's your, you know what? I can't remember the exact name for the acronym. Something programmable interface.
Okay. So nothing too important.
Yeah, long story short, API is a way for you to interact with a piece of software. They give you these certain functions that you can use. So long story short, your web browser, so this web storage feature is an HTML5 feature. So inside each of these, the modern browsers, it has a small database. And it presents this API to your HTML or specifically JavaScript code for you to be able to tell it to store this data. So that's what the API is for. Instead of you having to know exactly how to write to the database, you just tell it, hey, call this function, and it writes it for you. That's kind of what a API is for. You just give them a function to call and stuff that you need to put inside of it, and so.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the other part of that is actually in my conferences that I'm at right now with Jive Communications, we do phone systems, and so we talked a lot about APIs, and basically it's the architecture that allows you other third-party people to integrate into, let's say, our phone system. They could write a program that would integrate, like, you know, being able to do a screen pop when a call comes into a particular a company. It could screen pop their CRM so that that profile of that customer comes up automatically, and that would be an API integration. So it's similar to, I think, what Olan is saying. That, you know, you can do that at the web level and doing certain things that might be beneficial in that respect. But I don't know. I can't think of an example in particular.
So is that like for Google tracking on my website, I think they call it an API code that I have to put in somewhere from Google or from PayPal to be able to talk people over to their interface? Is that kind of what that is? Or
that API,
they would work together.
That API code is an identifier. It's just a part of the variable for those calls that you send to PayPal, etc. So normally that API code is going to be an identifier that identifies you as the person that they need to send money to.
Okay.
So, I mean, just think of an API as the front counter at a restaurant, you know, a fast food restaurant. You look at the menu that they give you and say, I want, you know, a burger, I want fries and a Coke. You have no idea how they're making the burger. It's all in the back, and you know that the end product is what they give you. That's what the API is. It's that front counter. You don't get to see any of the behind scenes. So.
Okay, awesome.
So web storage is very simple. All it is a key and a value pair. So the key is the name for the storage, and the value is a string of what you want stored to that key. You're now limited to 5 to 10 megabytes. It depends on it's still a standard, or not a standard yet. It's RFC with W3C. So some of the browsers are at 10 megabytes, some of them are at 5. So just think of 5. We'll go with the minimum. I know some have more, but 5 is the minimum that they're supporting. So,
hey, Olan, what happens if you exceed 10 megabyte? What does the program do?
so I'm not 100% sure. I've not tried it. That might be something I try to do later on, see what it does. I'm going to imagine that it might either tell you, give you errors that it can't store it. I wouldn't think it would tail off data. I would think that would be a bad scenario. But I would bet it gives you an error saying there's no more storage available. But I haven't tried it.
Okay.
I didn't have 5 megabytes to store.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah. So there are 2 different types of storage with this HTML5 storage feature. First off is session storage. This is a per tab kind of storage. It's not persistent. So let's say you close your tab out on accident. All that memory is now gone. It's wiped it out. You have to start from scratch again. The local storage, that is more permanent storage. I can close the browser, I can reboot my computer and come back and that data will be there. So, and it's all, the other advantage to it is that where you have the session storage that's per tab, let's say you have an application where you allow the user to have multiple sessions to it, so they have multiple tabs open to the same app, and you store data in one, it's not synchronized to the others. So that's another reason why local storage has its benefits, is that once you store it in one of the tabs, it's now synchronized to all of the other tabs as well. Now, there are other functions or basically API calls that you can make to this, but the most important ones that I wanted to get to you guys are the set and get items. That's the majority of what you're going to be doing work-wise, so I wanted to make sure we covered those. Now, one thing I wanted to cover very clearly is the security part of this. My life, my bread and butter is based on security, so I couldn't leave this out. Web storage is not better than secure or cookie security. This is still data that's stored in clear text on a person's computer. Now, granted, I would give it maybe a slight advantage in the sense that it's not sent with every HTTP request, but it can still send that data up to whatever web server on its own. So if you want secure data, first off, SSL is the standard nowadays. Well, basically TLS. SSL is an old name. It's still a known standard, but TLS is what you want to go for to secure your data while it's going across the internet. And never, ever, ever store any sensitive data like usernames, passwords, credit card numbers, account numbers, social security numbers. That's a big no-no, because that you can easily break into this data or see it across the wire if you haven't done anything to properly secure it. So session IDs is about as far as you want to go, which that's something we'll talk about.
So what about...
Go ahead.
So what about having something like that on like a spreadsheet on your local drive? Does that go across the internet? Is that tappable?
So yeah, anything you send data-wise that's not encrypted in transit, you can clearly see it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you don't want to.
Well, I get that part. I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
But I'm talking more about just, having an application like a Word document or something like that sitting on your local drive, but you're not transmitting that over the internet.
No.
It's just local access.
Yeah, if it's local on your laptop, but I don't want to get into a security discussion here, but that's still a big no-no. If you're going to store passwords, credit card numbers, all that, there are plenty and plenty of data breaches that didn't even have didn't need the internet to happen. It just had someone lose their laptop or something like that with this kind of data on it. So, but long story short,
wow.
This is the kind of
don't do it.
You want to consider when you're talking about web storage. So do not consider it better than cookies in the sense of security. I want to make that clear because some of the websites I researched said it was better security-wise. I don't know where they're getting their information from because it's not. So now here's some very short examples, which I'll show you the code here in a second. So let's say there were, first off, this is a name array, for an example. This is one example only. I've got the others on the website, which we'll show you just a second. But you create this array, and the one thing that you need to do to be able to store arrays, associative arrays, or objects is you need to translate them into JSON. The reason why you need to do this is because, like I stated earlier, this storage method is only for key and value. Value means a string. You cannot store any type of object to it. It won't work. So that you need to translate them into JSON with the stringify, which I'm pretty sure is probably why we have it as a topic for our class. So you want to stringify these items and then store it into your your keys. So here's the key right here. Names is the key, and your value is names in a JSON string. Now to pull that back out, you just do the JSON parse of local storage.get item with the key of names. All you have to do is give it the key. It'll then know that the string here that you stored is what it needs to get, and it'll give it to this JSON parse function, which will then pull it out of JSON formatting and put it into your stored names. So let me go ahead and get to the coding example here. This is really, it's a two-part thing. So this first page that you're on right here actually just stored data on my PC. As soon as I loaded it, it has this script that runs in the background and stores three different things. So the first one is the array you saw earlier. The second one is just a simple string, and then the third one is an actual object. And I just made it a simple car. It's describing a car with the make, the model, the year, and the color. And I stored all of those in two different ways. So the car and the names I stored with local storage. And then the session storage, I put in the course item in there. And I'll show you guys here in a second how you can see that the local storage, I'll be able to see it in another tab, but this course item, I will not. So if you click on this next.
So when you loaded that,
go ahead.
When you loaded that page, you had this JavaScript code in your page, and it did this. You didn't need to enter this information like on your page. This was just something you made the page do, what you've got right there?
Yep, so it's already happened. I already have this stuff in memory as we speak, or in storage. So the next page is going to pull that information up. So this is the stored data. I wanted to show it in JSON to you guys so you kind of could see how it parses it. So the actual variable doesn't change by much, or the array doesn't change much. It looks pretty much identical. The string, same thing. Objects are slightly different because of the hierarchy. So JSON is also a key value type of setup. So this is the key, that's the value, key value, key value, key value. And when you translate it back, it will store it just like it did when you had it on the other page. Which actually I should show that code on this page. That's one thing I'll change. But here's the JavaScript for it right here. So I just parse from the local storage the get item of names, and then I get the session storage get item of course, and then the car I parse it again with that key value, and then I just do some document.write lines to print it all out. And you can tell I'm having like this, like the object car.make, so you know it's been translated back correctly because I'm calling the object attribute. So car make, model, year, and color. Now if I take this same link, the next page, and I don't go to that first page, and let's just go to another tab. Load. I guess trying to record and everything is kind of a pain. So look here, the course, remember that was session storage. So it's come up null now because there was nothing in storage or the session storage. This was a brand new tab. So it came up null. But these guys are still there. So, any questions on storage?
That's interesting.
Yeah, not at this point.
I mean, it's really simple. There's not tons to do with storage. I mean, I think total with the API, there were like 6 procedures, including the 2 I just showed you. So there's not lots. They had one for...
Yeah, I got a question.
Like you could erase it from memory. There was also a clear all, so you could dump the memory for your specific website and start from scratch. I'm trying to remember the other 2. But yeah.
So, Olan,
Yeah.
on the once you save that into a JSON variable like that, where do you pull? When do you parse that? I mean, could it be anywhere in any program at any time, or how widely is that available?
JSON is a wide standard. PHP supports it, as does Ruby, Python, Java, of course, JavaScript. Those are both native. JSON is a widely used translating standard, I could call it. I mean, it just takes objects and creates them into. If I can get a JSON, because there are some pretty intricate examples you can get of how this ends up looking. And I kind of don't like it when it has it in one line, because I prefer to have it in the tabbed format, so it's easier to see. But
But can you, like, once you set that variable in a JSON variable like that, where you did that array, can you use that in any other, like on any other page, or is it restricted to a tab, or
so
how often can you use that, or does it disappear?
So depending on what type of storage you use, if you use the local storage, you can only use that data on your website. So I can't create another domain. The way it does the websites is by domain. Let's say I do me.com and then I have you.com. If I do all my work in me, and I need you.com to also look at that data, it won't function. It won't work. Because that data is stored for me.com.
Okay. But you can use it anywhere in me.com.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the session one, that dies when I close the tab. So, and I kind of showed that here just by pulling up another tab. It didn't pull up the session storage that I had for course.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Nope.
I'll add the actual code to this page so it looks like this one over here. There we go. So it'll look like this. So that way you guys don't have to look at inspect the code. So, but yeah. Well, does anybody have anything else they want to discuss before we break and meet next week?
No, I think we're good.
So next week we're meeting at 8:30. Is that still a good time for everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, Tiffany, are you going to put your presentation up on the
Yeah, I
the
dropped it into the drive already. I dropped the PowerPoint in there.
Cool.
She's got it right here. And mine's already out there as it is. My website just references that storage spot.
Okay.
So it's the same thing whether you view it in this folder in Drive or whether you view it on my webpage. So one or the other.
I'm on your webpage right now on my iPad.
So yeah. Just here is where I have all the code examples. So.
Olan, what's your webpage?
BYUI Here, you can see it on my screen right here.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to jot down.
I can't
All
forget the
things
Zoom. It
network.
keeps my
.org.
Allthingsnetwork.org.
Assessments / okay, I'm assuming topic 4 just takes you to this one, right?
Yeah, I couldn't write the full name out, so I just started writing topic 1, 2, 3, 4. Otherwise, I would have this really long URL. So I just, if you want to see the reference down in the footer, right here,
Yeah.
topic examples to CIT261, that'll take you to the page that has all of the topics and their defined pages. Like the loops, conditional statements that I did last week. I've got the video up as well as the presentation where you can look through it. I'll probably add some code to it later, but
I think that's a good example of how I think our teacher wants to see it.
yeah, he wanted a topics page where he can just go through them all. Makes it easy.
Okay, cool.
Yep. One thing, if you want, I think I had that over here. Take a look. I think I had it set in our contact info to have your website listed. Yep. So there's the website.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
if you, again, just click on my link there, which will take you to my page here, which then you just click on topic examples at the bottom, and voila, you're here. So, and if you could fill yours out, that would also be beneficial. So,
Will do.
Sounds good.
cool.
Got it.
Well, thanks everybody.
All right, appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good job.
Catch you next week.
Bye.
Night.
Bye-bye.